If you've been on television more than 5 times describing what the tornado sounded like, you might be a redneck.
The South. The home of good eatings, down-to-home hospitality, and some questionable history. Not to mention yours truly. With the rolling farmlands and diverse lifestyles, it feels like we all know the South. Well, it feels like it. There's the South, and then there's the South, the version that television created. As TV grew older and more mature, so did its depictions of American life. Broad strokes eventually became fine details, but it was a winding road to get to that point. And in the South, that winding road had an early stop in Cornfield County. Hee Haw debuted on CBS in 1969, riding off the coattails of America's infatuation with other shows depicting rural life. Taking inspiration from Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In and taking over the airwaves after one unfortunate joke, Hee Haw played to its perceived strengths: quick-timed country-themed gags, twangy country music, and scantily clad women? The fast-paced sketch show all took place against the backdrop of fictional Cornfield County. Yes, spelled with 2 Ks. And followed a colorful cast of offbeat characters. The cast featured such memorable faces as Minnie Pearl, Roy Acuff, Junior Samples, really? String Bean Aikman, Slim Pickens? That's his name? And, who am I forgetting? Peter, can you help me out?
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Conway Twitty.
Nice to see you. It's been a long time.
The show was filmed on a soundstage at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, which I had the pleasure of actually visiting one time. It was a vehicle for corn-pone humor through a variety of sketches. One featured the 2 primary writers, Archie Campbell and Gordy Tapp, singing a comedic duet about lost love.
I searched the world over and I thought I'd found true love. You met another and you was gone.
Another, The Corn News, parodied local news delivery.
KORN News from all over and back home again.
And my personal favorite, The Hee Haw Players, where the cast members would take a countrified version of a Shakespeare play. Unfortunately, I was unable to find a clip of this, but you're just gonna have to take my word for it. And everyone was comfortable with that. No desire to tap into something any deeper than a well-timed, albeit cheap laugh. It notoriously avoided any sort of political humor or commentary. After all, Cornfield County was a fictional land of good country folk. Nothing bad happens here. Ironically enough, during the show's initial run from 1969 to 1971, this show aired right after it. But maybe, in its own way, that was the political commentary. This was during the time of Nixon, after all. Political tensions were heated, we were deeply embroiled in debates over the involvement in the Vietnam War, and the civil rights movement was just now bookending a tumultuous fight for racial equality. Many white Americans, especially in the South, were feeling threatened from all of these outside forces. They believed they were losing their power, their influence. They didn't want to be reminded of that every time they turned on the TV. So, Hee Haw was its kind of own political message. Let's just not talk about it, and we can all be happy in our bubble. And a bubble it truly was. Critics tore into the show during its first run on CBS, giving it some of the worst reviews any rural show had gotten up until that point. Some feared it would set country back 25 years, and it was hard to tell if the audiences were laughing with or at the culture depicted. When you think of a Southerner, what image conjures in your head? Perhaps it's an overweight, uneducated, slack-jawed yokel who holds deeply conservative values and speaks in a molasses-like accent. You can pretty much thank Hee Haw for that. For a show so beloved by Southerners, it really doesn't give the love back. In a way, I guess it is an idealized and nostalgic view of life on the farm. but think about it for more than a few seconds and it's hard not to feel an icy touch. Oh, and allow me to add insult to injury. The two creators of the show and one of the major writers were Canadians. Hee Haw did have its redeeming qualities. It helped to bring in a niche audience to late-night variety TV. Its syndication run lasted until the 90s and developed a huge cult following. And for whatever reason, it's still widely loved in the South. But after the Rural Purge axed the first iteration, it was hard to undo the damage of Hee Haw's depiction of the South. Enter one salesman of propane and propane accessories. King of the Hill debuted for Fox in 1997. The show, a brainchild of slick satirist Mike Judge and character-driven showrunner Greg Daniels, followed the Hill family of Arlen, Texas, as they navigate daily struggles in a changing world. Standout cast members include Judge, Pamela Alden, Stephen Root, and, of course, there has to be one completely strange choice, Tom Petty. When it broke onto the scene during the height of The Simpsons, Judge and Daniels made a number of groundbreaking choices. They made a push to go beyond the stereotypes and the cartoonish flares of their yellow friends and do something that felt a bit more realistic. Characters would continue to age, a lot actually, from season to season.
Joseph?
Hey, Bobby.
Minor character arcs were followed across episodes, so most of the early humor was mined from the mundanity of daily life. Jokes were never the top priority in Arlen. But no matter how much heart Greg Daniels brought in, Mike Judge was just gonna Mike Judge. The latter pitched the show expressly as a vehicle for socio-political commentary, and he stayed true to his word. It's kind of hard not to imagine why. Clinton was just entering his second term and bringing a lot of finance-related scandal baggage with him. Party polarization was on the trend to where it is today. But, interestingly, he didn't take the obvious approach of, let's rip on the Republicans. Hank is a man of many beliefs. He's a staunch traditionalist and fights the status quo at every chance, sure. But he also respects the heck out of Jimmy Carter and Lyndon B. Johnson, both Democrats. Many episodes feature characters crossing the aisle to understand the other side.
You know, Con, we may deny our kids completely different desserts, but they both go to bed hungry. And that's what really matters.
Or sensible people trying to take down the harebrained bureaucracy.
You're talking like a song from The Lion King. Stop that. It makes no sense.
In a way, it was the last bipartisan show, and it handled its topics with wit, complexity, and sympathy. It was given universal acclaim as a result. Per Time magazine, it's the most accurately observed, realistic sitcom about regional American life, bar none. That extended to its depiction of the South. King of the Hill gave some of the first three-dimensional treatment of the region. Arlen itself was a character, and she had as many layers as Hank did. Regional specifics were lovingly poked fun at. Everything was meticulously researched at the behest of the creators. It also helps that Mike Judge used to live in Texas, unlike some creators. It all culminated in a show that started to erase the Confederate-waving Texan image Hee Haw unintentionally helped create. Yes, the South is many things. A fickle region of jokesters, a football-loving, barbecuing land of both parties living hand in hand. But above all, the South is my home. I'll take the good with the bad, because that's just what life is.